Hello, I'm Ronnie Eldridge, and welcome to Eldridge and Company. My partner in conversation today is Antonio Reynosa, the city council member from Brooklyn, whose district includes parts of Bushwick, Ridgewood, and Williamsburg. But in all probability, come January, he will represent all Brooklynites as its next borough president. Welcome, Antonio. And are you going to work to make Brooklyn the best, most progressive government in the country or something like that? Is that what you said?
Yes, Ronnie. Well, I'm working on it. I'm looking to make it the progressive capital of the country. I'm not a big fan of hearing about what Seattle's doing and what San Francisco is doing. We should always be at the forefront of that work. And I think most of these things should be born in Brooklyn. We are the most progressive county or the progressive borough in New York City. And it's about time people notice that. I think some folks did, because we seem to have gotten every single level of government is a Brooklyn representative. So people are recognizing the work that we're doing by electing us. And now it's about time we start getting to work.
And Brooklyn is the most diversified borough that in the city, isn't it?
My folks in Queens would get upset if I was to say yes. We're very close to Queens, but Queens has the most languages spoken in any county in the entire country is Queens.
Jackson Heights,
yes.
Right?
It's all Brooklyn all day for me, Ronnie. But yeah, we are one of the most diverse counties in all of the country, only second arguably to Queens. So yes, it's a diverse county. It's huge. It's a very large county. And the borough is home to over 2.5 million people. If it was its own city, it would be the third largest city in the country. So it's significant.
It's amazing. So you've had a very busy life in the 8 years that you've been in the city council. I mean, you're an organizer and you're progressive. You're trained. I mean, you really were trained as an organizer, right? You have really made movements and worked on them and helped them progress. So how are you going to organize Brooklyn as a borough president?
Yeah, so a little bit of my history, Ronnie. I started, as soon as I got out of college, I started working for Acorn under John Kest and Bertha Lewis. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth and learned a lot about organizing.
Even at your college, Antonio, even at your college, there was a progressive kind of organizing, right?
Yes. Well, I was part of an organization called BOND, or Brothers on a New Direction. And we set to have young men of color be active in the local community, specifically because in Syracuse, Ronnie, it has the lowest educational attainment for men of color, young men of color. And we had less than like 15% of young kids or young brown and black men reading at grade level. So we decided we wanted to get active. And that was my first foray into organizing, to try to get people to go out and read and tutor these young people that have never seen a person of color that has went to college. We were the first group of men that they ever saw went to college. Before that, they thought college was an institution exclusively for white men. So I was happy to change that.
How does that make you feel inside?
It breaks my heart. I want to be honest, Ronnie. This, I use it now as fodder for my resume, right? And it's great to be able to speak about the work that I did. But it's extremely sad. These young people were not getting the education that they deserve. They were being left to know that college was not in their plans. We're talking about sixth graders reading at first and second grade levels. So it was heartbreaking for me because I came from New York City. And New York City has its problems, but I never saw such this like a lack of I never seen so much inequity in an educational system as I did in Syracuse. So it was shocking and kind of like, again, motivated me to want to do something about it.
And it's tragic because a lot of them don't even know that there's a difference.
Yeah.
Isn't that what? I mean, that's how I feel. People don't know they've been deprived of the education. It's just shocking. Anyway, you became a very committed public figure, and you are really going to change things, I think. Right.
Yeah. So Ronnie, we're going to get to work. I want to be honest. Like Marty Markowitz before me and Eric Adams was and sorry, you might hear my baby in the background, but Marty Markowitz was a cheerleader, and he
Yeah.
really wanted to make sure that people recognize the greatness of Brooklyn through its attractions and its culture. Eric Adams, I felt was more preparing to become mayor and using the office as like a foundation to be able to build off for mayor. So this office, I feel really has a lot of like untapped potential, especially when it comes to movement building, to organizing, to really building from the ground up. Just organizing nature of this office can be built. I get to do what I want. I get to build it the way I want to, and I'm going to build it the way I know how I do things, which is movement building, bringing people in, making decisions as groups in group settings, and really allowing for people to make self-determination. So I'm really excited about building out this office and really creating something special and different.
And your foundation is going to be the community board members that you appoint?
I do. Right now, I have huge issues, Ronnie, with the community boards for many reasons, but organized appropriately or set up with the right infrastructure, they can be, something, a resource for Brooklyn that we've never seen before. With hundreds, close to 1,000 folks that are committing their time voluntarily to do good. They're just not given the proper vehicle to be able to achieve that. And I think that I could make it so that these community boards are more effective, more valuable, something people want to be a part of, and then use that as a basis to build for, again, the movement building that we want to do.
Yeah, many people don't even know they exist. And, my daughter was a member of what they called the ANC in DC, and it was called the Advisory Neighborhood Council. And she had to run for election. I guess the districts were small, but on a ballot, a primary ballot, Obama was at the top and she was at the bottom.
That's amazing. That reminds me of county committee
Yeah,
here
exactly.
And the work that we did with organizing. Exactly. But with the community boards, Ronnie, a lot of people don't know about it because it doesn't affect their lives in any meaningful way. So we have to change that. We have to make it so that it's the hottest ticket in the borough, that everyone wants to be on it. And I feel like we could do that. We could promote the work that community boards do or can do in a positive light, in a positive way, as a vehicle for making meaningful change.
But how do you see organizing it to have an effect on the Board of Education or the Education Department, whatever it's called?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to ask you different things, but land use, that's the best place, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yes. I think a lot of it is about education. I want to go through a moment with my community boards where it's like almost going back to school in a fun way, and allowing for them to be informed so that they can make decisions based on data and information and not anecdotes or personal experiences, right? So they could really do things because they need to be done. They need more staffing, which I think is going to be something that'll be very helpful. And then just the makeup of these community boards. Right now, they tend to be, the demographics are not appropriate. We have districts like Community Board 1, which I currently represent, that has almost 85% of the community board is white. And the district is about 45% Black and brown. And it's just like, we can do better with representation. We could do better, and not only representation among race and ethnicity, but religious differences, age differences, work experiences. Can you imagine a teacher being the head of the education committee, or a doctor or nurse being the head of the health committee? That doesn't happen right now. We have people that are not professionals in any of these things heading committees because they're interested in. I don't want to take that away from them, but we can have professionals in these positions that can give us some level of expertise to be able to affect change, and then show them that when they do it right, they can make important decisions on land use, they can make important decisions on education, and so forth.
I love hearing the children.
Sorry, my wife is like dragging the baby away. It's like, no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You were known in the council. I mean, you were very well known because you really spoke up a lot. The trash.
Yes.
That was the inequity of Bushwick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Receiving more. But that meant that when the cap was put on the amount of trash that would come into the neighborhood, someone else had to add it to theirs, right?
Yeah.
So are you going to try to form an alliance or coalition with some of the other borough presidents?
Yes, I do want to do that. And look, we love talking trash in Brooklyn, so I'm glad you brought it up, Ronnie.
You
But
know,
no, look,
I worked with the Young Lords, and
okay,
one of their big things was trash. They moved everybody's trash to the middle. I think it was Second Avenue, and blocked the traffic, and finally got increased sanitation services.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Look, this disparity related to trash in our communities for a long time. And what we asked wasn't necessarily that we don't want to pick up your trash. It's just that, pick up your own trash, right? Everybody do their part. Equity into our system. And equity is a very difficult conversation to have, Ronnie. A lot of people feel that it's, someone's losing something, but I don't see it that way. I don't see winners and losers in the conversation about equity. I see some people that win and some people that win more. Like we could change the conversation. And folks like Sunset Park took on more trash. Folks in Manhattan took on more trash. We were handling 40% of all of the city's trash in one district out of 51. We were handling 40% of the city's trash. And that changed. Now we're only at 24%. We're still by and large and by far the district that handles the most trash. There's more equity into the system, and we'll limit asthma rates. We'll allow for our children to be able to play in the streets without having to smell garbage all day. And I think it's meaningful. What I want to do with the rest of the borough presidents is I want to do challenges. So my goal here is that to do work, do something different, and see if other people want to emulate it. And can I give one example, Ronnie, about like something I'm going to challenge them on? One of the challenges is land use. The borough president can bring up their own applications. Council members can't, but borough presidents can. So if a community comes to me and wants to do something, for example, increase density in and around train stations, but preserve mid blocks because that might make sense to their community, they could bring it to me, and I can actually start land use application and have the Department of City Planning and so forth look into it. And that hasn't been done in Brooklyn since I've been born. So I hope that other borough presidents see it and say, hey, we can initiate these land use conversations. And because we want to involve the community boards and do this community-based work, maybe we can start changing the conversation around growth and development that is more inclusionary, that listens to community. So that's something I'm hoping to do that the rest of the borough presidents would be a part of.
Yeah. When was the last, citywide plan?
So the city never does citywide plans, right? That's the problem. I always say this. I always say that the Department of City Planning is the place where you go if planning is done wrong, right? That's where you go, because the rezoning of any sort is a recognition or an admission of defeat by DCP that their planning isn't comprehensive. So the city has never done and I want to apologize because I've been.
They did in the late 1960s. So in the Lindsay administration, last comprehensive plan of the city. I think.
And I was born in 1983, Ronnie. So in my lifetime, I'm going to say in my lifetime, there hasn't been a comprehensive plan. And Lindsay did an amazing job, Ronnie. That was a great job. And why something that was as successful as that comprehensive planning push by Lindsay, why not emulate that and want to do it again, given how successful it was to introduce us to NYCHA and to these other developments that kind of saved the city during a terrible time. Now we're in a tough, in a crunch when it comes to homelessness and so forth. And rezoning the entire city or having a comprehensive plan on how we're going to get out of it it should be and would be the best way to do it. But this city is so consumed with these spot zonings that solve for problems in silos as opposed to comprehensive.
Right. I think it's terrible. And you can see the result of it basically with the Rikers question. Communities rejecting areas. You can't close Rikers until you can build other facilities.
Yes.
So how can the borough presidents pressure the council members? Because the council members should be concerned about borough presidents because they can affect the vote for the council members, right?
Yes.
And all the boroughs can affect the mayor. So how do you start the petition from ground level and build it up?
Yeah. Well, a couple of things is look, I think Brooklyn.
That sounds too complicated.
I'm gonna try to do it. And you let me know if I'm answering the question. But I think the good thing about Brooklyn is that a lot of progressives won in this last election. And if it was a more moderate or conservative borough, I think I would have to figure out a way to push my weight around, use the bully pulpit to really make sure that folks are on the right side of history on a lot of these things. But I really feel like it's going to be more of a partnership. We're talking about Lincoln Ressler, Sandy Nurse, Jennifer Gutierrez, Alexa Aviles. This is just a growth of young progressive people that want to do good. Now, I want to say that the land use stuff is tough because we have this, I call it the NIMBY YIMBY death loop, where no matter what it is, there's always a group of people fighting it. And I think it comes from the fact that people don't feel like their voices are being heard. And I think Borough Hall or the Borough President's Office should be a central location in developing the infrastructure or the systems or the process that needs to exist so those voices are heard. And instead of feeling like they're not being listened to, feel that they're contributing valuably to the potential development of Brooklyn. And also that it's not all about development. We have sewers, we have combined sewer overflow, we have resiliency projects that need to get done, we have huge issues with broadband networks. And the only time we have those conversations is during rezonings. And I feel like the city should be invested in that. Separate and aside from development. You should be fixing your sewers because it is the sustainable long-term investment that this city needs, not because you need to leverage it so that a council member can give you an extra 10 stories on a high rise that you want to build. So I'm hoping to change that conversation.
You do think, though, that this younger progressive movement has a future?
I think it does. They have work to do, right? So I think what we need to see from them is that they can do the work. I think a big problem here is that progressives are thinkers, right? It's about ideology, and I think what people want to see is that can they do the work? Can Brad Lander use his ideology to do the work of a controller? Can these council members come together and make decisions that are going to help the people of New York? That is what people are looking for. And I want to be honest, Ronnie, that I think people lost a lot of faith in progressives because of the management style of Bill de Blasio or communication style of Bill de Blasio. And, some folks are not happy with his governance. And it kind of really affected whether or not progressives can continue to govern.
I've been thinking about it, watching what's going on in DC, in the Congress, and wondering how much compromising you can do. And I believe that there has to be some compromising because we do want a result, right? We want to make things better. But at the same time, you're not going to move forward without objecting. Do you feel that? Do you understand what I mean?
I do. And it's something that I've been challenged with or been dealing with my entire career. Nothing gets done without negotiations. And there's a difference between advocacy and governance and governing. And I think a lot of activists don't know that, or a lot of organizers on the ground. I didn't know that when I was with Acorn. I was all in all the time. I wanted all of it or nothing at all. And for elected officials, that's not the game that we play, right? We're trying to move the goalposts as far as we can, as quickly as possible. And it was Barack Obama that he said something to the note of, progress happens incrementally and revolutions happens once a generation. So look, I'll keep fighting the good fight in an effort to start a revolution. But till then, I will be making incremental change. So this idea that incrementalism is a bad word or that making progress slowly is a bad word, I'm not a big fan of that. I'll make my incremental changes. And when I can, I'll make significant changes. We gotta take some of it. Because I'll give an example, the Republicans, they have no problem, doing the work that needs to be done to make progress on their end, while we're here, fighting against each other to make, minimal progress. So right. It's a tough one. I guess my answer is I don't have an answer to that. I've been dealing with it for a long time, but I believe that there is value in both, allowing for advocates to seek the revolution that govern, work incrementally to make progress towards the goals that we're all looking to achieve.
It really has to be the people's revolution, and maybe revolution then gives us a different view of what we mean. I don't know. I'm not challenging your use of revolution,
I see.
you were born in Williamsburg. Where
I was
you?
born in Cumberland Hospital in Brooklyn. It doesn't exist anymore. I think it's shut down.
And you still live there.
And I was born and raised on Williamsburg, and I was born and raised on the street South 3rd and Hughes Street. Now I live on South 5th and Hughes Street. I moved 2 blocks away from my home where I grew up.
That's
Yes.
like me. I've always lived on the west side. I'm at the lowest part on 57th Street now, and the highest part was 93rd Street. But anyway.
That's awesome. It's great. Everybody knows you, right, Ronnie? My thing is, I can't do anything out here. Everyone knows where I live. Everybody knows who I am. They know who my children are. But it's good. It's good to be like rooted in the community that you were born and raised in.
Right. I think you've made more impact than I did, but it's all right. But you've seen then gentrification right there around here. So what kind of a feeling does it give you?
It's a difficult feeling, right? It's this idea that money controls all, right? This idea that, community comes second, or people come second to money. And that's a difficult feeling. But we learned a lot. And I feel like the punches that we took have been learning lessons for other people doing rezonings and understanding how displacement works and gentrification works. But the rezoning that will happen in 2005 on Greenpoint, Williamsburg, had about 20,000 Latinos were displaced over the following 10 years. And that is tough. And the people that are left here are either, very successful, but rare, Latinos and Blacks. But they're people living in NYCHA, in HUD-based Section 8, private like Krause buildings, non-for-profit housing, and Michelamas, right? So there's government subsidies in all of the buildings that people are living in. So my district is still 38% Latino. When I first came in, it was 48% Latino. But there's this idea that we've all been taken out and that there's no more Black and brown people. And that's not the case. The great work that people in the non-for-profit world did in the 60s and 70s helped build the infrastructure to help keep over 60, 70,000 Latinos in this community. So I don't want to dismiss that. The gentrification took a hold, but the work that was done by housing organizations have kept us here.
Did you know Father Powis from
Did I
Bushwick?
know Father Powis? Absolutely. Father Powis was like a mentor to me. Father Powis, I'm a Catholic boy. My mom made sure we went to church every single weekend. And like the good Catholic boy I am, I haven't been to church in like 7 months. So I have to go back. Well, the last time I went back was to Father Powis's wake.
Yeah.
The one thing about Father Powis is that was important to me, that was meaningful to me, is that the Archdiocese of Brooklyn was very strong. And they didn't want their priests getting involved in like these social justice issues locally. But we all came from the Father Carvelis tree. Father Carvelis, who was down with Father Powis, was always very active. One time in church, he asked us all to stand up, made us all get out of church and march. Instead of going and doing the 1 hour, listening or, the sermon, made us march to affordable housing site and asked us to squat in a building that was being built in the waterfront. So that was what Father Carvelis did. And Father Powis was also fighting the diocese, saying we need to be more socially active. If we're going to lose our congregation to gentrification. And seeing him fight the powers that be really is inspirational, or was inspirational. He's a superstar out here. He's an icon in Bushwick, and I'm so grateful for him too.
He is absolutely wonderful. He was a good friend of ours, and my husband, who was a newspaper man with a certain personality, Father Powis would call him when he had to go to housing court, and he'd march Jimmy in with him. And that was one of the things. Or my husband also said, if you're a reporter, you got to climb up the flights of stairs. And so he often went with Father Powis. And it is a model for everybody. He is. And
He started,
you know
he
what?
started a not-for-profit housing organization. Like,
Yes, is that still working?
who does that? Yeah, BHIP. It's a shell of what it used to be because Father Powis got sick and he couldn't be as invested as he was before.
Right.
But it's a priest that started a not-for-profit housing organization in Bushwick. Like, it's unbelievable the work that he did.
I interviewed him a couple of years ago, so you should, on my website, you can look for him, or you can just Google, the program and Father Powis. And he's just remarkable. It was lovely. You know what? I think you're going to be a leader like him, or you maybe already are. And you're going to leave you're going to do very well. I wish I was around when you become mayor.
No, right. One step at a time. I'm here for Brooklyn. And if I could make, half the impact that Father Powis did in Bushwick, in this city, I would be a very happy person.
Right. And it's remarkable, and it gives me great hope for the future of the city. And of course, Brooklyn. Yeah. They used to say the west side of Manhattan was the most progressive spot in America. I'm not quite sure what Helen would say about that now. Anyway.
Yeah, that is true.
Thank you so much. And it was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope we meet again.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being on the show, and I hope that I can come back and hopefully talking about the great work that we've done in Borough Hall. I have a great initiative that I'm starting year one for Black Women's Health, where I'm looking to outfit every single public hospital with a state-of-the-art birthing center and empowering midwives to be at the center of the birthing process. I want Brooklyn to be the safest place for Black women to have babies in New York City in 4 years, and if I get elected again in the United States of America in 8. And that is something that I'm making central to the work that I'm doing. And I hope that next time I come, I could come back with data and information about the progress we're making as a borough.
Definitely. I welcome you back.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Antonio. It was a pleasure.
Thank
you.